They officially landed in Las Vegas on Sunday as the two teams prepare to face off in Super Bowl LVIII. Bright lights of Vegas welcoming two of the best teams, actually the two best teams in the NFL. They're facing off in the Super Bowl. There's George Kittle getting off. See everybody exiting the plane as we welcome in Jeff Darlington from the Chiefs. He's covering Kansas City all week for us. And Jeff, you sat down with Patrick Mahomes recently. What did you take away from that conversation ahead of his fourth Super Bowl appearance?
Laura, a lot. I felt really good about the conversation from the standpoint that he was honest about the differences in the way that he now felt like he needs to play because of this team. And one of the most interesting things that he talked about was how he realized that he needs to be the best quarterback for this team, which isn't necessarily, as he put it, the same as being the best quarterback when it comes to stats. And he said it happened around Christmas Day when the team lost to the Raiders, a very deflating loss. He said after that game, he started to do some thinking and recognized that this was the kind of team where he didn't necessarily want to take the kill shot too often, that he needed to take what the offense was giving him and what the defense was giving him. So more of a little bit of a game manager, if you will. I sense that he's still willing to be that guy, and we've seen that at times, but he's also more about making sure that he takes advantage of the weapons he does have rather than trying to do too much and perhaps change the game against his favor the way they did on the Raiders that Christmas Day.
Yeah, it makes sense. Also, Jeff, we saw a post from you yesterday that we had to ask about. Did you really pack a humidifier for your week in Las Vegas?
Well, Laura, thanks for asking. I stopped at a lovely store on the way in. I'm a Florida man. I need these types of things. In my 20s, I used to come to Vegas and maybe I was a little more dehydrated, if you know what I mean. And it would just kill me, my nose and my mouth. But now I'm hydrated, I'm humidified, so we're all good out here in Las Vegas.
Dude,
humidified.
Darlington's a piece of freaking work, man.
I didn't have humidified on my bingo card today, but there's some other things that have happened on the show I didn't have on my bingo card either. So we're going to leave that there. Thank you to Jeff.
I got all sorts of chapstick.
Oh, I
got
love it.
everything I need.
Jeff is moisturized
and
humidified. I wonder how long we'll leave his mic open here. I like it. Patrick Mahomes has thrown 203 passes in the playoffs since his last interception, which was in the 2021 AFC Championship game. That's the third longest streak without a pick in NFL postseason history, trailing only Tom Brady and Drew Brees. He can tie Brady's record with 34 more attempts without a pick in the Super Bowl. And Dan, what have you seen from Mahomes on this playoff run that's allowed him to keep the ball out of harm's way so well?
Yeah, one, their offense has become so much more game plan specific than it was in the regular season. They've found a very central formation or personnel groupings, and then also they've run three-level, like 100 different ways. They're going to run what we call sail or three-level throws 10 to 12 times. Three-level throws are, you got a guy going deep, you have a guy going intermediate, and then you have a guy going short. And you're just trying to stress these three levels. They get to it a bunch of different ways. MVS is running a pylon or a deep corner, then Kelsey's got this sail or corner or out route, and then there's a flat route. And Patrick and Kelsey do a great job of knowing when he's going to actually run that corner route and not. So that's in the, obviously, the wild card round. Well, this is the divisional round. Guys, this is the same exact play, just getting to it a different way. There's that pylon, there's the corner, the out route, and here's a flat route. This is the Travis Kelsey once again. If you go back to last week and the AFC Championship game, guess what they ran a ton? Three-level sail concept throws where the outside guy, we're going to lift off coverage. He's an alert. If we love the coverage, we could throw a post or a pylon, and then we have some form of a deep corner at 18 to 22 yards or an out route, and then somebody stressing the flat. And then Patrick is consistently reading that guy, and him and Travis have this great feel of, okay, when am I actually running full speed to the corner or the sideline? When do I sit and throttle down? That's one play each game. They're going to run it 10 or 12 times against San Francisco, and there's going to be different ways that they get to it. They've attacked the perimeter so much, I expect that to happen again in the Super Bowl.
Well, they're also playing a cover three single high sort of team. And so some of those sail routes are going to be open because you're going to put the curl flat player in a conundrum trying to figure out, should he get depth or should he kind of close the space on the flat guy? But also Patrick Mahomes is playing like a man that understands he has a great defense, knowing that this team isn't the team that it's been through his first 6 years as a starter. And the other piece of it is he's showing so much humility, but also confidence. He understands that he has nothing to prove. He will only be judged by the amount of championships he wins. And if he continues to play this way, he will win another one by protecting the football and taking the shots when the defense makes them available.
Marcus, what can the 49ers do on defense to get Mahomes out of his rhythm? It seems impossible sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of moves that they made were building up for this moment. Signing Javon Hargraves from the Philadelphia Eagles, go and get Chase Young, and obviously Bosa. If you go back to that first Super Bowl, Bosa was trending towards being the MVP of the game, and he impacted it. Pat Mahomes had 2 turnovers in that Super Bowl. A lot of people forget about, but the pressure from 4. But more importantly, you guys know how much I talk about his legs becoming devastating. You have to have a controlled playing rush, but it has to be aggressive. Like that was the one thing I felt with the Baltimore Ravens. From a 4-man rush, they weren't able to generate enough, and we saw him dance around in the backfield for a long time. This has to be about those 4 guys up front when Steve Wilks doesn't want to commit to trying to pressure and get after Patrick Mahomes and get him off his spot. And when those 4 get him off his spot, there needs to be like wild dogs with their hair on fire, making sure he don't rip off a 10, 15-yard run to convert a first down.
Yeah, I agree with you, Marcus. I think we're going to need to see more from pass rushers not named Nick Bosa. Hargrave, for example, that interior pass rush needs to play better, especially with Joe Thuney out. I don't anticipate that they'll blitz very much because, Laura, to your question about Patrick Mahomes, it's not likely they're going to force Patrick Mahomes to make mistakes. Far more likely is that someone else on the Chiefs will make a mistake. That has been when the offense has struggled this season. It's not been Mahomes. It's been because they have to string together these long, methodical drives. The pass game has been very horizontal. You get a hold, a drop, one miscommunication or the wrong route run, and it derails the entire thing. If I'm Steve Wilks in the San Francisco 49ers defense, that's what I'm hoping for. Just that you make the Chiefs work their way up and down the field and that somebody not named Patrick Mahomes makes a mistake, because for the better part of the season, that's been what's happening.
I get your point. I just think it's become what we're watching is this defense in Kansas City is so good. Patrick, it's almost like Pittsburgh, Ryan. You know this. Like, they're going to keep you in the game and then get it to the fourth quarter and make 1 or 2 big plays at the end. And the reality is Patrick knows he and Kelsey can. And that's why we're not seeing him force the football in moments early in the game.
Yeah, it's a good point because it's not all just about Patrick Mahomes and this offense. To your point, Dan, this defense has been the identity of this Chiefs team. Palantonio joins us now from Vegas, where he'll be covering the 49ers all week. And Sal, what's Brock Purdy saying is most important for them that they must do on Sunday?
San Francisco 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy said, obviously, we need to do a better job of staying on the field on third down, converting on our third downs, staying on the field, especially early in the game. The way to do that, run the football. And we all know the foundation of the offense of the 49ers is Christian McCaffrey. Their outside zone toss has been the staple, especially on the offense's left side, attacking the defense on the right side. Very effective against Detroit, very effective against Green Bay. Got to run the ball effectively, especially early in the game. 2 reasons: keep Brock Purdy on schedule, he just talked about it, and 2, keep Patrick Mahomes II off the football field.
The Chiefs have been a bad run defense, including playoffs, ranking bottom 10 in yards per rush, yards before contact per rush, and yards after contact per rush. So really, any way you slice it. Dan, how do you see the 49ers game planning the run against this KC defense?
Yeah, Charlie Warner. We talk about George Kittle, their tight end, a ton, rightfully so. And we talk about their 21 personnel, 2 backs, 1 tight end. You certainly Kyle Juszczyk being in that role. I think we could see them put both their tight ends on the field, George Kittle and Charlie Warner, and run the ball a ton. That's the 2 tight ends up at the top. Juszczyk, the fullback, is really in a tight end alignment because he's so versatile. He leads up on that support player. The right tackle is able to go inside out blocking. The tight ends on the backside collapse. And then there's a beautiful cutback for Christian McCaffrey. Really the same formation flipped. There's Juszczyk and McCaffrey in a traditional alignment for McCaffrey. Juszczyk up at top, and then those 2 tight ends. Look at the double team, the movement, the collapse on the right side of their offensive line, and then those guys really can lead the way for McCaffrey, completely changing the line of scrimmage and equals a big run. We know Kansas City's going to be susceptible to the run. That's kind of what you can get after them with. I could see both of their tight ends playing a ton of snaps and trying to really play big boy football for San Fran.
Yeah, this time last week, when we were talking about the Ravens, Marcus Spears and I were very upset that they didn't run the ball. I don't think that's going to be a problem with Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers. It's not just that they're good at running and that Kansas City has struggled to stop the run. It's the way they run. Dan talked about them using 21, potentially 22 personnel. The Chiefs typically counter that with base, meaning three linebackers on the field. And when they do so this year, 29th in EPA per play against the run. The Niners love to run the ball from under center. Kansas City, 25th versus under center runs. And San Francisco's actually gone back to their identity a little bit as more of a zone running team yet again.
Than last year.
Kansas City Chiefs allow the second most yards per attempt on zone runs. Matchup versus matchup versus matchup. It's not favorable to Kansas City on the ground. Kyle Shanahan knows this. I expect them to run the ball a lot.
Then that turns this into who's going to be more persistent in what they do well. Will the San Francisco 49ers continue to turn around and give the football to the best player on the field, and that's Christian McCaffrey? We sort of saw last week when we watched the Detroit Lions get up early, they got the football in Christian McCaffrey's hands. And what I was most surprised with and actually most impressed with was his physicality with the football at the second level. I believe that's something that you want to take advantage of if you're the San Francisco 49ers, not only to keep the ball in your hands and have a manageable third down opportunities, but you also keep Patrick Mahomes off of the field that way as well. And so I think there's a clear path to winning this game, but we thought the exact same thing with the Baltimore Ravens, and we see that Todd Monken went away from that.
True.
Will Kyle Shanahan watch that film and say to himself, that won't be me, they will not be talking about me like 28-3 again?
Yeah, y'all, for the sake of the conversation, obviously we all know that run game is going to be paramount. But, you know, I was thinking about the first halves for Brock Purdy. And more importantly, for what you guys just talked about, is to get him comfortable and settled in. There have been a lot of almost. There have been a lot of turnovers. There's been a lot of kind of up and down play. And I think you get him comfortable that way as well. So not only leaning into what you do really well and what Kansas City defends poorly, but also to get him more acclimated and get going towards the game. We've seen him take time to become the guy that we're starting to see ascend late in football games. The other thing is this too. For as much as we've raved about how well Kansas City secondary tackles and they tackle well, this also needs to be a Deebo Samuel extended handoff game and try to create some of those matchups on the second level that they always do with him. You see here the tunnel screens, obviously using them out of the backfield and also in motion to try to figure out if you can get him matched up. The same thing for Christian McCaffrey. If you do want to get Brock Purdy in some semblance of a drop back game, don't forget about these two. And lastly, perimeter blocking. That's something we talk about with both of these teams, but we know San Francisco does it at a very high level. I think it's going to be paramount for Brock Purdy to get comfortable, but their offense to be what they wanted to be in this game.
Dan, you're going to jump in with something else, but just quickly, to Marcus's point about extended handoffs with Deebo Samuel, just explain a little bit more to people about exactly what that means.
It's those jet sweeps where they start them on one side of the ball and they'll full speed sprint to motion. They could turn around and just hand it to them. They're trying to get the ball to the perimeter. They could let him go by and they can kind of kick it out there as a little bit of an RPO.
So unique.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. It's the different ways to do that. It'll be interesting because let's say San Francisco pound the football, run it, and Kansas City bows up. Then that's not going to make Brock Purdy comfortable, you know? And then that plays to that Kansas City strength of RC talks about those middle field open pressures, and they're going to come from everywhere. Chris Jones is going to line up on the right tackle, and it's going to be advantage Kansas City. So it's going to be really interesting to watch Kyle. Like, how does he balance getting him settled in and comfortable versus committing to that run like RC was talking about?
Well, the other piece is, too, though, who's L'Jarius Sneed going to follow? To me, I think he'll be matched up with Brandon Ayuk, who is truly their number one receiver. And so it's going to be big that Trent McDuffie has a huge game with Deebo Samuel moving in the slot, him also getting into motion. And he's one of the best tacklers in the open field that we have in this entire league.